Hello, welcome. We are Group 14 from ECFS1001 History and Philosophy of Early Childhood Development. Our course coordinator is Wilma McLean and our e-tutor is Carlin Menzi. We will be presenting on the topic The Evolution of Early Childhood Care and Education. Let's meet our presenters. We have Kelisha Pompey and Nicolia McQueen from Trinidad and Tobago, Shani Fletcher from Grenada, and me, Blessing Jno.Baptiste from the island of Dominica. I will now hand you over to Kelisha, who will give you a brief introduction to this presentation.
Introduction. In this presentation, we will be exploring the history of early childhood education in the Caribbean and how it has evolved over the past years. We will also delve into the impact of major terrorists and how early childhood facilities can be of benefit to stakeholders. Also, we will demonstrate how policies are being implemented during the COVID-19 pandemic for schools in Jamaica. On this slide, we have a timeline showing the history of the origin of early childhood education in the Caribbean from 1934 to 1970 and present. Trinidad and Tobago opened a private nursery in 1934 for the children of their country to begin to go to school. In 1938, Jamaica started a community basic school for their children to also begin to go to school. In 1950, UNICEF began to provide assistance to the Caribbean for the development of early childhood to begin. UNICEF ND. In 1966 to 1967, Bernard Van Leer Foundation began programs to improve quality of learning in early childhood education. This is where the teachers and students gain more knowledge about early childhood care. Bernard Van Leer ND. In 1970 to present, there has been an increase in establishment of early childhood institutions all over the Caribbean. This is currently where all the Caribbean countries has their own establishments, which is their own schools.
Evolution of Early Childhood Education in the Caribbean, 2011 to 2021, meeting the needs of the 21st century nursery-age students. Before we begin to look at the evolution of early childhood care in the Caribbean, we must first ask the question, why is early childhood education so important? Back in 2017 posits that a child learns 80% of what he needs to learn by the age of 8. Between birth and 5 years old, the brain is making multiple neural connections, and these neural connections are the foundation for what the child would use into adulthood. If these connections in the brain are not formed in the period birth to 5 years old, the child will not have the necessary foundation, because pruning occurs where the child will get rid of anything that is not deemed to be useful. So it is important in birth to the 5-year period that these connections are developed, and that is why early childhood education is important. The nursery age or preschool child are those children between birth and 5 years old. Decades of neuroscience and behavioral research have illustrated that early experiences have a major impact on development of the brain. During this period, birth to 5 years old, it is a very critical period for developing the foundations for thinking, behaving, and emotional well-being well into adulthood, as the nursery age or preschool child period lays the foundation for later behaviors. In order to meet the needs of preschoolers, we must first also ask what exactly are the needs of preschoolers in the 21st century. Preschoolers in the 21st century, we have moved away from the 3 R's, writing, arithmetic, and reading, and we have approached curricula in a more integrated way. So, what are the skills that a 21st century preschooler would need? They would need to develop skills in first critical thinking, communication, creativity, technology literacy, social emotional development, and collaboration. Now that we understand the needs of the 21st century preschooler, how have Caribbean governments risen to the occasion of fulfilling these needs? Firstly, through extensive teacher training in behavioral theory and practice using major psychologists like Brunner. Improved curricula that include art, drama, music, and foreign languages to develop all areas of the child. Providing guidelines and mandates on the type of environments appropriate for preschoolers. Encouraging stakeholder input, as it is understood that all the environments that the child interact with become and are important to their development. Additionally, a hands-on approach to learning, fostering a learning while doing mindset, as well as encouraging inclusion from the culturally different to the differently abled. So, how have we benefited from government involvement? Education policies are driven by works of major theorists like Bronfman, Brenner, and Brunner, which my colleague Blessing will be discussing shortly. There's an increase in infrastructure. There are numerous early childhood centers throughout the Caribbean because there's an understanding that the environment plays an important part in development. Additionally, government is able to supply material and resources to promote hands-on learning and to foster a more holistic development of the child. In all, governments of the Caribbean understand that an investment in early childhood education is an investment in the nation.
Education has evolved a lot through the years. Theories proposed by several theorists have shaped the way in which children are educated today. I am going to highlight two theories and how they have influenced change in teaching methods previously used in the early childhood setting. Firstly, I would like to start with Yuri Bronfman-Brenner's theory on ecological systems. This theory aims to bring an understanding of how a child's environment impacts their development. It can further be broken down into 5 systems, as described in this picture. The system closest to the child is the microsystem. Next, we have the mesosystem, connections between these systems. Exosystem, the indirect environment. Macrosystem, social and cultural values. And lastly, chronosystem, changes over time. It was Jean Piaget who proposed that children learn best when they are active and through interaction with their environment. The ecological systems theory has impacted this way of learning, as lessons take into account the wider environment of the child due to a clearer understanding of it. This fosters a child-centered learning environment where they are actively involved in the lesson. It has aided in the development that emphasizes the holistic development of a child. For example, when teaching colors at school, the teacher not only uses objects in the immediate classroom, but encourages children to think of examples of a color at their home or within their community. This helps the children to understand the concept better when they can relate to it themselves. Another theory that has played an important role in early childhood education is Jerome Bruner's theory of development. I will speak about 2 of the highlighted components of this theory: spiral curriculum and discovery learning. Spiral curriculum can be described as a form of education that entails frequently coming back to the same educational topics during the period of which our child is educated, Drew 2019. This has improved teaching methods so that teachers can teach children progressively, making the topic simple in earlier stages and building on it as the child grows. For a quick example, children can learn about plants and not be exempt saying it's too complex. They can be taught about the parts of the plant without going into details that may confuse them. As they elevate, you can start teaching them about the purpose of the parts of the plant and how they work. Discovery learning. This encourages students to build upon experiences and information from their past, use their imagination and other skills to discover new data. Pappas 2014. Using again the example of teaching about plants, children can be encouraged to explore plants at their home or community and observe them. What happens when they don't water it? What happens when they leave it out in the sun? Berners Fury has encouraged the implementation of a child-centered learning environment where participation and involvement is key to a successful lesson. Thank you for listening. I turn you over to Shani.
The presence of an early childhood school in a community has tremendous benefits to parents, community members, students, school board members, and other stakeholders. Janet 2020. Parents benefit from parent-school relationships. Parents and teachers partner and work collaboratively to promote the success of children. When parents, family members, and teachers partner and communicate, they help each other to support, guide, and better plan for children. Moreover, parent-school relationships have been associated with children's social, emotional, behavioral, and academic development. Oruka et al. 2017. Community. Community schools serve as centers for recreational, social, and cultural life for community members. Example, groups within the community may hold group meetings at the school. Oruka et al. 2017. Students. In early childhood community schools, the classroom sizes are smaller compared to schools in urban areas. The children will benefit from receiving individualized attention from the teacher, and so this can contribute to high levels of performance in students and greater community involvement. Coulter 2017. School board. The school board's main role is to collaborate with community members, students, parents, teachers, and other stakeholders to develop, plan, and implement programs and policies that will benefit all stakeholders involved. School boards contribute to the professional development of all its stakeholders since they are allowed to be a part of the decision-making process. Eisenstein 2020. The government of Jamaica collaborated with several stakeholders to create an agreed policy document for the methodology for reopening of early childhood institutions to ensure the safety of every child. Reopening early childhood institutions for child ages 0 to 5, 2021. The policy document addresses stakeholders such as students, parents, and practitioners. A copy was made available to all early childhood institutions. The policy document, Reopening Early Childhood Institutions for Child Age 0 to 5, 2020, mandates that anyone entering the school premises must wear a mask. The mask must fully cover the nose and the mouth. A child and teacher may remove his or her mask when physical distancing is maintained. A temperature check will be administered to anyone entering the school. Practitioners, students, and auxiliary workers should wash or sanitize their hands on arrival at school and frequently throughout the school day using a sanitizer made with at least 60% alcohol. The school environment and toilet facilities should also be cleaned and sanitized frequently, and soaps, cleaning agents, and sanitizers should be replenished. According to Linton 2020, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information in 2020 launched One Laptop or Tablet per Child initiative. Also, in the beginning of this year, Prime Minister Holmes, through his Positive Jamaica Foundation, distributed 600 devices to students. The aims of these projects are to ensure that no child is left behind and also to provide students with the requisite tools to function in the online teaching and learning environment due to COVID-19. Office of the Prime Minister, Jamaica 2021.
During the course of this presentation, we discussed the evolution of early childhood education and how it has encouraged improvements in learning methods and the overall learning environments of students. The evolution was encouraged by many theories. Yuri Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory and Jerome Bruner's development theory was highlighted in this presentation. Stakeholders can benefit greatly from a preschool in the community, and it was emphasized in this presentation. Jamaica has been one of the countries who has actively participated in implementing of COVID protocols for schools, and we have learned some important things they put in place. Education is ever evolving, and as future early education practitioners, we should aim to be educated about the history and current advances in the education field. Thank you for listening.
Here are our references for the information in this presentation.